Hello, everyone.
We're live. Ha, ha, ha.
Hi. For those of you who've seen my lives in the past, this is not my regular typical live with JHC and friends, but Ali and I wanted to share with everyone that we're going to co found a newsletter business. And we went ahead and thought, maybe let's just document our whole experience. It kind of started with a conversation, right, Ali? We were just having a regular coffee appointment. It was like a mentor appointment, really. And then I told you I wanted to build a newsletter business, and then your eyes lit up and you're excited.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, because I think I knew you owned multiple businesses, but I didn't even realize that you had already built your own newsletter company.
Hmm.
I think I knew that you were dabbling with it. I didn't realize how further along the process you were, right?
Yeah, true. No, but I was actually, it's my only full-time thing. Like, it's true, I'm a shareholder in a couple of startups, but ever since uh, 2018 or so, no, not 2018, sorry. Ever since 2020, I've been focused just solely on the newsletter. Like, it's 100% of my time. Every other business, I'm just a shareholder in, but basically passive. But yeah, newsletter. So definitely. And why my eyes lit up in that conversation, because I was thinking of a newsletter specifically for Tallahassee, and it just came along when you started to talk about it. So, and we started to build it from then.
And it's funny because I was trying to tell you about my idea of a specific niche I was going to try to target for. He's like, no, no, don't go that direction yet. And I was like, okay, cool. I want to ride along for this journey because I want to learn from what you've already learned doing this. And just to give people context, you pretty much started around 2020, right? Building this newsletter company, and it's grown significantly to over 60,000 subscribers. Obviously for a specific niche, but for us in particular with CityClips, we wanted to focus on the Tallahassee area because right now we see a lot of people making attempts with their own organizations, and it's not really capturing everything that we would want from an outsider's perspective or from a new Tallahassee resident or somebody who just wants to visit Tallahassee, right?
100%. Okay. Whenever I would like to talk about a new business, or whenever there's a pitch, people start with the problem first. And let's start with the problem. There's a couple of problems, but let's talk about the general one. So the general one is that there is chaos when it comes to information gathering right now. Like, let's compare this with 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was very clear people were either going to TV to get their news or to radio, and they had very specific times where they would go and listen to the 3 p.m. or the 6 p.m. And it was organized and it was delivered by specialists. Like, usually whenever you will hear about the weather, you'll get it from the specialists. Whenever you want to hear about the economy, they get these economic analysts. Basically, they're specialized in their fields, so they're giving you refined information. It was like, while you might say that there is a lag of time, but it was organized and it was by trustworthy sources, and there's a couple of options and you can pick between them. Now the internet came along, and all of a sudden we are in this new age of information that is becoming instantaneous. You see things live, you see things a few minutes after they happen, but the source is not necessarily as trustworthy, because all of a sudden you have everyone is becoming a news reporter at the same time. Everyone is giving their own opinion, and all of a sudden there's chaos. Like, the good voices can drown among the bad voices. Like, it's just too much noise. Um, this affected the reader or the recipient of news in the sense that it became more time consuming to filter out what is good from what is bad, all kinds of issues. And now the time is no longer the same. Or if you go, for example, if Twitter is your best source of information, you would go on Twitter, but you wouldn't find only information. You will find information, you will find jokes, you'll find entertainment, videos and whatnot. And all of a sudden you spent an hour or an hour and a half, and you didn't even get the same amount of information that you would get from listening to something specifically about the news or the updates of the day in 5 minutes. So chaos is what is happening with information right now. And newsletters, while they came in the beginning, email newsletters, they came at the beginning of internet as a source of before social media. So it was a source of sending chain emails and sometimes necessary things, sometimes funny things, but at the end of the day, it was a way to communicate to a mass. Then came along social media. It drowned the newsletters out, and the email newsletters were out of the picture. But with the increase of social media and the increase of chaos, newsletters came back again as something that is more specific. For example, if I'm a marketer interested in the trends of marketing, I would go and subscribe to a marketing newsletter. Or if I'm interested in investments, I will go and sign up for an investment newsletter. And now it came back to be a solution for this chaos of information. I saw all of this, and honestly, I was facing that issue. Like ever since I graduated from university, I'm not able to keep up with business news in an efficient way. Where I'm working, I'm busy. I don't want to go on social media the whole time to pick up what is happening, what are the trends that are happening. So I started to depend more on these newsletters, and I thought they were nice and they were fun, and they're an upgrade to the old ways of getting news. And I figured there wasn't anything in Arabic, so I started to focus on that niche. Let's focus on business news in Arabic, and started. And ever since then, it grew to 60,000 subscribers and whatnot, and it proved to be a profitable business model, etc. And we can go into the details of how newsletters make profits. But basically, that's the story for how I started with it. Now I'm reflecting on this journey, on this 3 or 4 years journey, and I'm starting to think, okay, some niches are better than others. Should you go for a generic newsletter or for a very specific newsletter? Should you focus on certain geographies and whatnot? And based on all of these reflections, this is where the discussion that we've had come along about the Tallahassee CityClips or the Tallahassee newsletter. After all of this very long background, let's think about Tallahassee. Facing the same issue of chaotic news that is happening everywhere, there isn't a single source that I know of that would just gather everything that is happening in Tallahassee. And what are the events that are happening? What are the key highlights about lifestyle, about what is happening, about restaurants, about events, where to see the best fireworks, etc. Like these normal things that probably we can grab from conversations around us. There isn't this one source that lists them in a nice way. Even though Tallahassee is an interesting place for a lot of newcomers. You have students that are coming here every semester or every year. You have people who are working at the capital or at the organization for the government for the federal government who are coming almost and moving every year. You have new professors that are coming every year. So basically, you still have this new influx of people, and you don't have a sufficient source of information that would tell them about their lifestyle. So this is where the idea came about, I think.
Yes, and after having several conversations, we agreed that a lifestyle angle is more useful, because there's some business sources, and then there's like the traditional forms of media and things like that. But I think it would be really cool if we have, coming from our perspective, having been here for maybe now it's like 12 years for me, and then for you it's what, 4 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
2018. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's funny because like I've learned enough on the surface about Tallahassee but there's more to learn for sure. And then so having you to ask me the questions like, hey Julia, where do you know where I can, experience these things? And then I can provide to some level like the answers to that. But then I think it'll be cool if we dive in more detail. Because like we were hypothetically thinking like, okay, where would you go for some fireworks? Like that's just a normal question to ask if you move here, like, okay, I want to go see fireworks. Where can I go? And so we ended up having a great conversation around that. So, I mean, I have several questions. And for those of you who it looks like somebody's watching, which is awesome. Thanks for joining us. We already have 3 videos that we pre-recorded ahead of this to talk a little bit about like some of the process that Ali had went through. And so we're going to share that pretty soon, but we wanted to go ahead and move forward with doing lives because we're just going to go for it and just cover questions. Like you can follow my journey in learning to do this because I've always wanted to build a newsletter business. And then using Ollie's mentorship and his experience, we decided, why don't we just partner and experiment with this idea on, and if for those of you who know me, I'm doing a lot of several things, but I'm really excited about this because this is a really great business model to scale. And it's a scalable business model.
Definitely. It's
Yeah.
definitely scalable. If you want to think about all of the good things that are related to a newsletter, so it is definitely scalable. That's one, because it almost costs the same to send an email to 100 people or to 1 million people. It's almost the same cost. So you don't have increasing operational costs. It's basically the cost is the time to build a good newsletter, good content, but then distribution is almost has zero additional cost. So once you have that fixed cost, everything is the same. So, but however, if you do deliver to 1 million people, then you have a much bigger source of revenue. So that's why it is scalable and it can become profitable quite easily in a short time if the content is good. So this is one. It is highly scalable. Second of all, I think it is highly mobile. Like we have writers from all over. Like no one has to be in the same office. It can be done remotely. I can manage the business from anywhere. Honestly, and that's a big plus in today's world. Like it is a major advantage compared to many other businesses where you have to stick to a certain geography or a certain time of going in and out. In newsletters, you can write whenever you want. You can schedule the time of the posts on, or when do they go out. You can even schedule them. Like there's a lot of technical know-how when it comes to this, but basically even scheduling the emails, even if your audience is global, you can pick that everyone it gets to everyone at 8 a.m. their time. So it is really almost built for someone who wants to work remotely the whole time and wants to pick their own times of work. So first of all, scalable. Second of all, flexible. Third of all, honestly, it is very rewarding. I mentioned this to you before. Like I started it because I wanted to stay on top of business news. But honestly, being a writer for a newsletter that is related to business gives you an even more advanced edge, because in our newsletter we share about 7 pieces about news, about business news. But in order to reach what are the 7 most important ones we want to share with our readers, we go through 150 or 200 articles that came out yesterday. And just going through this process of going through the 200 or the titles of the 200 and then filtering out 20 interesting ones and then picking the last 7 that we have a deeper dive into, will just almost keeps you up to date with the business world on every single day. And I cannot explain. First of all, this is very valuable for even conversations that are related to business, but also in decision making. At the end of the day, we're all interested in investments every now and then. Should I buy in stocks through Robinhood and whatnot? And being up to date about all of this business information is heavily rewarding. And I would imagine everyone in their own field would be highly rewarded by knowing more about their field and being more up to date. So I will encourage anyone, for example, if you're a marketer, go and do a business newsletter about marketing. You will be up to date on marketing. You will share it. You will increase your brand equity when it comes to marketing. And you will be able to make better decisions when it comes to marketing, but also many more people will be interested in you. Many more companies will be interested in hiring you, etc. Network is definitely an additional thing. Like once you start distributing this newsletter, whether to your readers or even if some people just know that you own this newsletter, all of a sudden your brand equity increases as well. So I honestly, it is one of the few businesses when I started that has both. It is financially rewarding. Probably it's not as financially rewarding as investment banking, but it's okay. It makes a living, but at the same time, it gives you all of these non-material aspects that are really rewarding as well. Whether it increases your knowledge, increases your brand, increases your flexibility and where to live, and all of a sudden, it's a complete package. I would encourage everyone to do it. And honestly, it is rewarding for the readers as well. So we're just elevating the whole society and the whole community as well with us.
Would you say that it could be saturated already, this type of thing? Or is it still in the stage where people can actually still, What do you think? I mean, I guess it depends on the market, right? And the
100%.
topics.
It depends on the topic. It depends on the niche that you're picking. Like, for example, if you want to tell me, let's go for a general business newsletter that is in English, this is probably saturated. You have a couple of really good ones, really big ones, Morning Brew, The Hustle, and others, Inside Business, and many others. But if you pick a niche, then all of a sudden you have almost no one in that space. Um, for example, if we pick, I don't know, a newsletter about horseback riding, best trends, where to buy thoroughbred horses, how to take care of your horse, I wouldn't think that there's any newsletter about this. Is there enough audience? I would think there is enough audience, because if you pick that newsletter, then you can go global.
Yeah.
It's throughout the US, at least. Like, even if you get 2,000, 3,000 subscribers global who are interested in thoroughbred horses, and where are the shows that are happening, I don't know, the auctions that are happening, how to take care of your horse, best, like, all of a sudden you have this incredible new opportunity. If you're interested in horses, this is even going to be interesting for you. Even to build that newsletter is an interesting prospect. And when it comes to the financial sides of it, um, taking care of horses is usually an expensive sport. It's usually for people who are well off. So there is potential for sponsorships when it comes to that. There is a potential for making money through sponsors, through subscriptions, through many different things that can be thought of. So it really depends on the market that you want to focus on. Depends on the language you want to distribute and write in. Depends on the market, the niche that you're thinking about, and sometimes even about the geography. Like in the example of CityClips that we want to think about, we're thinking about for a newsletter for each geography, but even that doesn't have to be necessarily the case. I can think about 20 newsletters that are potentially can be successful, but you have to have the drive. I think the key to success is having good content, and good content will not come without you really knowing about this field and knowing what is good content and knowing how to summarize it and deliver it in a way that people will keep opening day in and day out.
That's great. And so we decided to start with the focus of Tallahassee, but we are open to covering other areas nearby because there's a lot going on in the North Florida area. So how long did you do this on your own? Because we are looking for writing interns and creative interns who want to dabble with this experience as well. How long did you write for on your own, building your newsletter?
The first year, I was definitely just me writing on my own. And even the second year, when I started to have additional writers, I still wrote much of what is happening, or at least revised it, because I cared about not only what was written, but also how it's written, how it's summarized, how it's written in a light language that I think is loved by our readers. But eventually, you can also introduce systems about this. So, for example, we have a file about how to write a Jareed news. How many words should it be? How do you start it? How is it towards the middle? How do you end it, etc. So once we had that almost like systemized, it's almost a way of how to make a burger. Like, go through these 4 steps. Once that is done, today I'm not writing any of the news articles that are happening. And basically, we have 2 newsletters. One that is more generic about business news and lifestyle news, and the other one is very specific on a niche, which is airlines and airlines news, etc. Both of them, I'm not writing anything related to these, and it's going
Wow.
well. I think it's still I think the key test will be, would people know if if one writer is writing this newsletter or not? And I think the major comment that we're getting is that people can't tell who's writing the newsletter.
So you pretty much like identified a strong voice in your writing, I believe, and then they kind of use that as your team members, right? So in our case, like for me, I was really surprised when I sent you an example and you're like, yes, this is great.
Yeah.
I didn't even do anything fancy as far as writing goes, but I think this will help with us getting motivated. And he and I, for those of you who are listening in now, we've been kind of brainstorming, collaborating the past few months, and then figure out what brands, and then setting up the accounts and everything. We're just kind of sharing this and documenting this. So one of the reasons why I you wanted to go live is because, and that's the question in I guess segue to the question, which is like, why are we doing this live? Why are we documenting this? And then also a follow-up question would be, I'm noticing newsletter companies are also doing podcasts as well.
Well, I think it's a good idea to document all of this. This is going to be good for us internally, just for anyone who will join the team to basically understand the basics of why are we doing this? Why did we do it for Tallahassee specifically? Why did we focus on geography? What kind of news do we want to share? That's one. But also because I honestly believe like it's a good solution for many of the problems that we're facing with the chaos that is happening in information sharing right now. I really believe in the value of newsletters and that it elevates the communities that it goes to, or the niches that it goes through. So I want to encourage people to build newsletters, and this can be a basic foundation for how to do it, or at least these are my learnings. Like definitely some people have built bigger or better newsletters than ours, but we have a couple of learnings to share. So why not share them? And the learnings are not, they can be divided into different categories. Some are related to the financials. Some are related to the financials of how to make money. Some are related to the technical aspects of how do you spread it, like without damaging your brand or without damaging your domain, and how to get better deliverability or better open rates on Gmail and other email domains. And other aspects can be related to, for example, building the team and how to train the team and whatnot. So there's definitely different categories that I can share the learnings, and we definitely want to share them with as many people as possible.
It looks like we have two watching, and they commented and they were in agreement about being specific as possible when creating a niche. Actually, Kareen has a question for you. So we're happy to answer these questions throughout our conversation. She says, what do you look for when measuring KPI with newsletters?
I think the key KPI would be open rate when it comes to newsletters. Like I think many of, if you look at Morning Brew, The Hustle, and many others, they're all looking about. It's not only about growing the audience, but how many of your audience is actually active. So above 30% is usually, this is the standard good one. But we've seen newsletters that can go up to 50%, and we've seen bad newsletters that can go down to 5% or 3%. Now, this is where how good your content is going to matter. That is one. But second of all, this is how the technical and using the right platforms to send your newsletter and making sure that it doesn't spam, it doesn't have any words that would put on red flags on Google makes sense. Because the cleaner the newsletter is sent technically, Google will place it more in the primary inbox rather than in the promotional inbox. But if you do a really bad job, you can go even to junk mail, and junk mail is the worst place that you want to go. And if you go there once, there's a big chance that you never get out of there in Google's eyes. So this is the technical aspect of it. But when it comes to content, honestly, one of the good things about newsletters is you can follow up how are people engaging with your content. For example, when you sent letters, when you sent titles of a newsletter that were provocative, did that get a higher open rate or a lower open rate? When you put a couple of links that are related, if you want to know more information about this aspect, let's be more specific. Let's take the example of the newsletter about horseback riding or taking care of horses in general. I like this example. We just came up with it. Let's go ahead with it. If I start my first couple of newsletters about horses, and for example, I talk about auctions, the best auctions for horses where you can find a good deal and really good thoroughbred horses, and then another article about best doctors for horses all over the US. Okay, for example, I had these two articles. You can follow up with the engagement in the way you can tell, for example, if you left a link for the first article and a link for the second article, you can tell if, for example, 20 people clicked on the first article, but only 3 people clicked on the second article. This can already tell you something about your audience. They're interested more in auctions rather than in doctors. And with time, you will start to build almost like a database of what are the topics that people are interested in, and you can start to improve your newsletter and your content with time. So it's almost like a two-way street. While no one is necessarily sending back to you and telling you, I love this article, not that, just the pure engagement of people with one article rather than the other tells you a lot and helps you improve your content by a lot through time.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Robert also hopped on and he has a question. What do you want to look at if you have a sudden drop in the open rate? It's kind of similar to what you just answered, but yeah. And I have a follow-up question about that too.
Most probably, it depends on how big of a drop it is. If you're used to 30% and all of a sudden you get 1 to 2%, something technically happened. Either there was a flag that was raised somewhere, and one of the platforms sent you to junk. So figure out. And usually, what I found that is the most repetitive thing is sending a bad link. It's a good idea to have links that are connected to sources in your newsletter, but it's a bad idea to have bad links. Like, it cannot be anything that is spammy. It cannot be any domain that has bad reputation. What a lot of people don't know is that Google has a reputation. Every domain on the web has a domain reputation. This domain reputation usually starts at 100%, and then if you do any bad marketing activities, spammy activities, etc., then your domain reputation drops. If for any reason you include a domain with bad reputation inside your newsletter, Google captures this and sends you to junk immediately. So this is the first thing that happens. But so I would say a high drop in open rate is usually related to including a link with bad reputation, but it can be many other reasons. A gradual drop in open rate can tell you something about your content. If you start with 50%, then 40, then 30, then 20 through time, then people are not engaging with your content. Then you should go back and see which titles or content were people more interested in versus what wasn't interesting for them, and you can improve from there.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I have a follow-up question. I mean, it looks like a lot of people are hopping on and asking it different on the different channels. Laura Lee asks, and this is covered too, Laura Lee, if you're interested. Once I put up the other pre-recordings, it answers a lot of your question. So she's asking, what aspects of a newsletter business generate income? Would it be beneficial for her business to have a newsletter as well? And I know her personally, so she has multiple businesses. She is an architect, and also she runs multiple properties for Airbnb. So like, there's obviously two different kinds of markets, but yeah, I mean, for a business owner, maybe they're managing so much and they can't keep up. What's an ideal frequency? And like, obviously what is still beneficial for them as far as having a newsletter?
That's an excellent niche. Architecture in general is nice. And even on social media, you can see a lot of the businesses that talk about the accounts that talk about, I don't know, this is beautiful trends in architecture that are happening. It's always interesting. People love beautiful things in architecture. When it's beautiful, it's attractive, and it gets a lot of impressions and engagement. Now, is it useful for my business to build a newsletter? It depends. If you want to build a newsletter just to tell me buy from my business, then I'm not that interested in. This becomes a promotional email that people are not interested in. But if you're actually providing me value, for example, if you say, these are the trendiest things that you can do in your house, or consider these 10 aspects that will save you money when you build your dream house. Okay, these are genuinely interesting topics for me. And I know it will take you some effort to do this. And you're sharing some valuable input that can be used by me and by anyone who will build a house, which is potentially everyone. So honestly, it depends on the type of content. But if you do content that you know for a fact will help people, I honestly think this will be good. This will be good for you. Why? What does good mean? Good, it means it will build your brand equity. Like in the field of architecture, if you start to have 10,000 readers who are interested in architecture, who subscribe to your newsletter, you will start to elevate yourself among this. Your brand equity as an architectural service provider will increase. Will you get financial aspects of it? Yes, definitely. If you get to the right number of one of two things, either to a big mass, for example, 30, 40,000 subscribers, then you will definitely have a lot of sponsors who will want to sponsor the newsletter and they will pay you good money for it. Or if you have a lower number of subscribers, let's say 10,000, 5,000, or even 1,000, but highly specialized architects are all subscribed to your newsletter, then all of a sudden you are interesting. But for a different kind of businesses that want to go to these architects that have decision-making capabilities when it comes to using different brands, for example, of softwares for architects. And that will be another source of revenue. But all of this, we're still within the umbrella of sponsorships. You can go into more niche, and for example, if you want to do a more advanced thing about specifically for architects, and these are the new trends, the best softwares to use, etc., and something that is very niche and requires you a lot of work to do, you can even open up subscriptions, and you can say, okay, we will share the best that is happening in the market and exclusive articles about architecture, but this is going to be for a subscription of about $5, $10, $20 a month. And then all of a sudden you have a source of revenue that is more predictable, even if it's from a smaller audience. So is a newsletter good for my business? Honestly, it depends on how you strategize it. But there is at least 3, 4, 5 ways that I would think of that it can benefit your business, both financially and non-financially.
And even I would say too, like if you weren't, obviously you weren't going to stack as a revenue source, but it's an informational and a way to build your relationship with your clients. It's almost nice that they can just forward it to anybody who's considering to hire somebody. Maybe I know Laura Lee also does manage properties, Airbnb properties for other owners. Like she doesn't have to be the owner of the property. So, for example, like if you wanted to build that side of your business, Larly, then people might actually forward that email to others who are interested in hiring you as that person to manage. So it's like, that's one of the best sources of word of mouth too. Email, like easily just forward it to potential clients.
100%
So,
agree.
yeah.
Like this is an interesting field as well. Like this is almost like a separate niche. I would think that there is 2 different newsletters that are kind of, so one is about the architecture, but Airbnb is very interesting. Whether it's the benefits of I don't know, of building a property for an Airbnb. What are the do's and don'ts? How do you pick the right real estate for your Airbnb? How do you calculate the feasibility of the Airbnb? How do you calculate how much should it be? Like all of these, I would think are interesting articles, genuinely, and it's for a big market. Like it's not going to be applicable for Tallahassee only or Florida only. It can be something global. If you start to tell me that you built a good financial model for how to pick a real estate, how to maintain it, and what is the maximum, how to maximize how much money you're going to make out of it, how to take good pictures of it. Like there's so many things that you can share that people will be interested in, and you can do it on a regular basis. Whether it's going to be, it doesn't have to be, not every newsletter has to be daily, like news, the ones related to news, but even a weekly newsletter about Airbnb best practices, I would think this is an amazing hit. This can be an amazing hit.
Yeah, I've been telling her to do her own course too. Okay, so Alyssa has another good question. Ali, everyone wants to hear from you. How do you know if your Google domain is spammy? She's learning about Google Analytics right now. So.
The problem is there isn't one source for knowing all of this. But if you look up domain reputation on Google, you will find a couple of websites that can give you a test. The easiest one will be, there's a couple of websites that even do this for free, where you just put the domain and they will give you what is the reputation out of 100. So this is one. But honestly, I would go, if you're serious about this, I would go all the way to getting specialists who can test out the domain in different ways, because it's not just about the domain. It's also about there is the which IP do you send out emails from. There is different kind of tests that can happen. So At the basic level, go and check your domain reputation and free services or services that you can do on your own. At the maximum level, if you have big newsletters and you really want to make sure that your deliverability is at the best level possible, like the way we care, there's specialists. I can recommend a couple of them if you reach out to me privately, but there's a couple that you can find online, and they're called email deliverability specialists. They do a whole audit for your domain. They send out a couple of emails from you just to test it out to different lists, and they try to even figure out if, I don't know, if your reputation on Google is like this, but on Hotmail it's like this, and then what are the solutions that you can do to improve your Google reputation versus the solution to improve your Hotmail and other domains reputation, etc. So it can go all the way to that end. It's a big field, but if you want one basic advice is do not, no matter how interesting it might be to do cheap marketing, never do it. Like if you find a service that says, oh, we can send you 100,000 emails for $200, never do that. The damage that you can do to your domain by doing this only once is irreparable. Like for Google, you will never back down from their junk list. And if you want to know, like, big companies fall into that. If you want the proof, just go to your junk mail and see how many major companies you can find in your junk mail. You will find many of them, and they have a lot of money. I don't know what happened, but it is something that happens, and you can fall into it, and it's just better to avoid it from the beginning.
This is so helpful, and that's why I was excited to just partner with you, because you can save me from doing a lot of expensive mistakes. And so, yeah, thank you all for hopping on with questions and everything. We are also looking at interesting topics because we're going to start sending out emails. Ollie talked about in our other pre-recordings, he started with just a few friends, and then from there it just kind of organically grew. He didn't buy a list or anything, so he really has genuine followers, and he was really good about cleaning his list as well. So these are legit 60,000 subscribers, and we're also aiming to do similarly, where we will have real people, real local residents, and we want honest feedback from you all. So we want to provide valuable content that's very interesting, entertaining, and hopefully this will take off. So Ollie, is there anything that you wanted to talk about some more? Because I was going to ask you a few more questions, and then we can try to conclude soon.
Just to add to your point, so honestly, we are looking for interesting topics that we can share. So really, what are the residents of Tallahassee, whether visitors or residents that were here before, what do you want to know about? Like, and the more you can tell us in advance, basically, the more we can improve at least our launch in the beginning. But definitely afterwards, we will be able to monitor the engagement and see how to improve it. But we were thinking about titles like, for example, I don't know, restaurant reviews for the best restaurants for certain kind of foods, or when it comes to seasonal events, where to go for that specific seasonal event at, or what bigger events are happening around us, not necessarily in Tallahassee, but 2 hours away. Like, I don't know what is happening, something interesting that is happening for the family that we can go to in Jacksonville or in Destin, or so I don't know, but let us know. Like, we can tell from our perspective as parents and as families in Tallahassee, but let us know the different perspectives. And honestly, we want to deliver content that actually will add value to you, whether when it comes to lifestyle, when it comes to business, when it comes to tips about, I don't know, for example, really good discounts that are happening around us. So it is about valuable content that we can all have a conversation about and really take advantage of. So I don't know, shoot us whatever recommendations you might have.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, speaking of which, and then you can tell me at some point too, because like Ollie and I are just kind of doing this without even much preparation as far as these lives go. So we're just kind of going with the flow. And one of the things that we want to talk about in preparing for maybe in the first, because it's just like when you're starting up with anything, you don't want to wait till it's perfect. Otherwise it's too late, right? In principle, it's like some of the biggest companies today started with really bad concepts and bad brands in the beginning, but they didn't wait till things were perfect, right? So that's pretty much kind of like how we're operating right now, but we're improving as we go and reiterating. So I'm thinking as far as an interesting topic goes, because I think people are getting ready to move again. It's like moving season in the summer. And so I started researching like really cool things about Tallahassee as far as like why live here. We have that perspective. Why do we choose to live in Tallahassee too? And what brought us here, right? I started comparing Tallahassee as a college town to Berkeley, just because I lived in Berkeley. And obviously there's major contrasts, but I didn't realize how small of a population Berkeley was also in relation to Tallahassee as a college town. I was thinking it was a lot larger, but it's not. But it's obviously neighboring to huge cities, and cost of living is ridiculous. So if there's anything along those lines of like what makes Tallahassee so unique, we'd love to get feedback from our local fellow compatriots. So if there's, what do you think, Ollie? What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. It was a big question, and I think we still see it. Like whenever anyone is moving to Tallahassee, there's always the first question is where should I live? Which, because Tallahassee has a unique perspective where it's actually spread out, so you can live, and there's good neighborhoods everywhere. So I don't know, where should you live? Is it southwood, north? What are the pros and cons of doing each? Like if you go online, you might find a couple of answers or a couple of perspectives, usually by realtors, about where to go. But honestly, it's a question. It's a holistic question. It's about schools. It's about services. It's about what do you do. It's about how big your family is. There's so many questions to answer. Do you like walkability versus do you like using a car? Like there's so many aspects related to it. But I think with the moving season, it's a recurring question. Everyone moves every 3 to 5 years. Not necessarily everyone, but a lot of people consider moving every now and then, depending on how the family grows and whatnot. So I don't know. It's a recurring question.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because like I have friends considering Tallahassee and Florida in general. So what made you choose to live where you live? And I could tell you what made me choose to live where we live. But I'm sure a lot of it comes down to price and then school zone too. And then some people can make a compromise or whatever if people don't have to worry about schools. Yeah. But because there's a lot of really nice neighborhoods too that are not in great school zones. So for you, like obviously in your case, like what made you to choose over in the north side? Like you're in the north side, right?
It was the school zones. For us, it was the major consideration was the school zone. Like well, we cared about price, but honestly, we were thinking, no, let's invest a bit more and just make sure that the schools are good. Because I don't know, schools for us was a big decision and a big thing that we wanted to make sure that we have. But other aspects that actually, after we moved, we figured them out more. Like there is more greenery in the north, so it's actually nicer for us. We love that. True, we might be a bit far away from the other services, but honestly, with a family of our size, we're spending a lot of time within the family already. We don't have to visit people every day. So even if we're that far away, it's okay. And basic services are there. Like there's but anyway, what did draw us to the north was schools. But I think after we got here, we can talk much more about pros and cons that have happened. Yeah. I agree with you, Robert. Schools and outdoor activities, yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, like there's I can't remember the total number, but there's an endless amount of bike trails and trails here for any of you who like hiking in the heat and humidity. I don't. But and for me, I'm used to commuting over 45 minutes or more, being from San Francisco. So it's like 20 minutes is not that far, people. Come on, Tallahassee. Y'all can drive further than 20 minutes.
But after you live in Tallahassee for like 2 years, 3 years, 20 minutes becomes then you go to Atlanta and then you're shocked if you're stuck in traffic for over 30 minutes. What is happening?
I joke about that with the kids. Like, you guys don't know what traffic is. Like Atlanta traffic. Yeah, that's legit traffic. Yeah, for us, like we obviously pick school zones, but we also like the comparison as far as price and property and the size of the property. It was a good. Um, it's Buck Lake area is highly popular. It's just there's not enough houses out here.
Yeah.
So like if we were to recommend to people, and this could be covered in our newsletter too, like what can people do temporarily if they don't have the option to get a house? Because I've met several people where their contract fell through and then they had to do temporary housing. You know, I wonder if that's something we can dive into and research, like some great Airbnbs to use as a temporary location. And I think there's a hotel that specializes in temporary
longer stay.
rents.
Like we can list out all of these different options: longer stay versus Airbnb, monthlies versus other aspects, versus other options. Like I don't know, for example, some of the like one of the good things about Tallahassee, for at least temporarily, when we first got here, we used it for a while. So these all of these communities that are closed communities, there's a couple of them, mainly for students. But these are okay, actually, if you want to stay there for a year or two while building a house, while fixing a house, while trying to find a house to buy. These are a good option, and it's efficient, and it has enough services, and there's many of them. Like they're mostly in the Southwood area, probably, or next to college or next to university. But there's others as well in the north. There's at least one in the north side of town. But these might be also another option. But I mean, a good article would be listing all of these options, like what are the pros and cons of each of these options. You see, only moving was so many has so many articles necessarily related to it. But what about other things? I don't know. For example, Fourth of July. Let's talk about 4th of July. We could have had a newsletter like a week ago or 2 weeks ago that had anything related to 4th of July. I don't know, 4th of July discounts. Where would you find the best? Should you do this, or should you wait for Amazon Prime? Amazon Prime Day, or the fireworks thing that we talked about, or what other events related to 4th of July are happening, and where are they happening, and what is the best plan for it. So seasonality can definitely provide a lot of good topics to talk about.
Yeah, I'm excited about those because it gives us time to research, and I'm going to have some of my team members help out with that. But we do want someone who's focused on it, and we are actually we've had some people show interest in potentially writing for this. So for those of you who are interested, who wants to join the team, Ollie and I are looking. But yeah, no, Ollie and I will be primarily writing and doing the research. And then so contact us. We have our emails. Ollie has his. It's Ollie at cityclips.net. And then for me, it's Julia at cityclips.net. So yeah, I think it's a good time to conclude. What do you think, Ollie? And then we can
Yes,
definitely do
maybe.
another one.
Well, I'll put you at the spot. When is going to be the launch? When is going to be the first newsletter sent out?
Let's do this. My birthday is July 16th, so I think we should do that like ASAP.
Perfect. Okay,
I
July
think we can do
16th.
that. Yeah, because we have all the platforms like that. We just need to pretty much start sending emails out. So
Yeah, because I agree. We just need to send the first couple of emails, and then we will keep improving from there. We cannot perfect it before it happens. So let's just do this.
Look at all of these awesome people commenting. Alyssa said that article could help college graduates. We need to showcase how we are beyond a college government town. Yes.
Perfect.
And there's so many cool businesses here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kareem. Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, Robert and Lorley, for helping out. You know, Ali, I have to let you know, even though I didn't promote this, like this is the most people who commented on an interview on a live. So
that's
thank
so
you.
Cool. That's only a good sign for us. And honestly, like we have to pay this back. Anyone who really wants to build a newsletter, we will be able to help them out. Like I really want to share that, whether it's in a different field. Of course, it's going to be for each case, it's going to be different. But anything that I can help with, I'm part of the Domi Station mentors, but also at a personal level, like I'm more than willing to help if anyone wants to do this as part of support for their business or whatnot. We all have a role in promoting the community, promoting local businesses, and I'm more than happy to do that within my expertise.
This is exciting. And Ali, I really appreciate you being generous with your time, because I know you're a consultant and you have so many, you have so much experience with growing businesses. And yeah, take him seriously. He really will meet up. So same here. I'm happy to help answer any questions along the lines of marketing and branding. Thank you, Alyssa. Happy early
Oh
birthday
my
to
God,
you.
what a coincidence.
That's a sign.
That's
I need to,
okay.
we need, yeah, we're going to
So,
send it out. And if you guys want to be our first 10 subscribers, we'd love it.
yes, perfect. No, definitely. Yeah, we need the first 10 subscribers. We will talk to Domi and the other stuff. Honestly, we can start with letting people know, like, this is the newsletter. We have to start to get the first couple of emails even before the first launch. Like, if we have a landing page, and this is an advice for anyone who will want to build a newsletter, let's have this landing page where actually we could have shared it right now and asked people to
I know.
put on their emails. And then as soon as we have the first newsletter, they will get it first.
Yes.
We should build that landing page definitely, and just start collecting emails, because organic is the only way to do it. You mentioned before buying off email lists. This is definitely a no-no. This is one of the things that actually can get you banned in Google. So organic is the only way actually to do it, in my opinion.
Yes. So we have our target, our soft target next week. So we'll have it all out, and I have all your emails for those of you who watch, and I'll send it out to you guys as the first ones. Thank you so much, guys.
Perfect, Julia.
All
When is
right.
our next live, or when should we catch up again?
Yeah, let's plan on, I mean, for sure, we'll talk soon. And then, I mean, I have time tomorrow if you want to. And then next week for sure. Like we could
And
do
we can
this week.
revise the first draft. We can actually do it live. We can share the screen and show the first
Yeah,
draft.
I thought about that.
Let's
I
go.
wanted
That
to
is
check
what is
with
happening
you.
next
Let's
week.
do that for the next one.
Perfect. Okay.
Want to? Awesome.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay, bye guys. I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you, Karine. You're cool too.
Thank you.
See you guys.